sometimes just the act of scheduling this time to be with yourself. I am so thrilled that you are here to practice with me. But even more so, just really touched that just by you being here, I know that you are offering yourself an hour of reprieve from anything else that may have come before this class. Any old conversations, any negative self-talk, any difficulties or challenges, any feelings of being stuck in your energy or just in your life. All of those things can begin to be shed the moment that you decide, I deserve a break. I deserve rest. And this restorative practice is always here to support us in that act of self-love and that act of self-care. It's a chance for us to really slow down and to move more slowly than we're used to. So we will be doing a little bit of centering just to come into the space and sort of get aligned energetically, because we are all here, even though we're not sharing physical space, we are sharing digital space, and that's just as important, just as sacred. Then we'll be coming into a little bit of gentle movement. And again, I encourage you to move as slowly as you like throughout that movement, to take shapes that feel good to you and to move away from shapes that don't. So please take all of my cues as suggestions. You can choose throughout the class how long you'd like to stay in a shape, or when it's time to move out if you're feeling uncomfortable. So as I said, we will come through a little bit of gentle movement just to let go of the day, let go of the week, and sort of welcome in the week ahead. And then we'll get into the meat and potatoes, the really, really juicy restorative part of practice. And please know that this restorative practice is meant to be very supportive. We have the blanket nearby, we have the wall nearby, or some other type of taller surface that we could use as support. But please know that you can grab anything else that you'd like to stay comfortable. So with that said, let's go ahead and begin in a comfortable seat. And all of us will find that seat differently. All of us are living, working, moving and breathing in different bodies. So please take a seat that feels comfortable to you. Could be a seat with legs crossed or a seat with legs long. You might even choose to lift the seat on your folded blanket or rest your spine against a wall. Wherever you are, lengthen the spine. Feel the crown of the head extended toward the sky and the tailbone grounded low. Roll the shoulders back and down a few times. Just starting to invite any held tension there to release. Find stillness in the upper body with the shoulders drawn back, the heart open. With the eyes closed or to a soft gaze, just begin to notice your natural breath. Feel the breath as it comes in and feel it as it goes out. Perhaps you feel the expansion of the belly as you inhale. Maybe you feel the belly button come closer to the spine as you exhale. Or perhaps you notice very different things when you breathe. Maybe there is sensation in the back of the throat, or a sense of coolness as the breath comes in through the nose. If anchoring your attention to the breathing just doesn't feel right at this moment, perhaps you notice something different. Where your body is resting in space, the temperature of the hands, the sounds around you, or the sounds inside of you. Sometimes just the act of scheduling this time to be with yourself and sitting down in a place that feels comfortable is enough to change our breath. But at this time, do your best just to observe the natural breath without forcing it to change. Noticing the natural breath can teach us so much about ourselves. Where we hold tension, what our innate level of anxiety or alertness is, how comfortable we feel in our own skin. All of these stories can be told to us through the breath. But very often, we are not still enough or quiet enough to hear these stories. Use this quiet to begin paying attention. Even if it feels as though you are meeting your body for the first time, just notice. Follow the sound of 3 more exhales. If just finding this meditative seat feels like a great place to stay for you, feel free to remain here as long as you'd like. If you'd like to follow along with me for a bit of movement, begin by using the full length of the inhale to guide the arms out and up. Then use the full length of the exhale to guide the arms out and down. Move the arms as if you are drawing a very very slow half snow angel in the air. Just opening the arms as wide as they can go, feeling some activity in the muscles of the upper arms. Brightening the fingers, spreading them out in all directions. And then relying on the breath, listening to the breath, feeling how smooth, how slow it is or isn't, and using the breath to dictate how long the movement takes. If the exhale is 4 beats, let it take 4 beats of time to move the arms out and down. If the inhale is 3 beats, let it take 3 beats to move the arms up and overhead. We tend to move at such a pace that it makes it hard for us to really pay attention to what we're doing. When we slow down and make the movements as slow as the breath, sometimes it can feel a little bit confronting or confusing. Like there's this nagging urgency to rush. So if you're feeling that urgency to rush, I encourage you to stay slow. I encourage you to keep going. Because throughout our lives, there will be this nagging urgency to rush. We will see it in other people. We will subconsciously want to mirror it. We may feel as though if we slow down, we are not productive enough, or we are not worthy or deserving. That we should not have as much as those who do great work. But this restorative practice is a chance to let go of that identity in our work. Let go of the idea of doing and come back to a place of being. And yes, sometimes moving slow is uncomfortable. We are so used to moving fast. The next time the hands are overhead, whenever they get there, no rush. When the hands are overhead, bring the palms together. And guide the hands down to rest in front of the heart. Let this gesture be a symbol that you are recognizing your innate worth, that you are worthy of moving slow, worthy of resting. And that this act of rest is really an act of gratitude and saying thank you to your body. We treat our bodies with care because we deserve care. We, just as much as anyone else, deserve happiness, freedom, and rest. Slowly reach the hands down toward the ground and open the legs out into a V shape. Now the width of the V, the size of the V, is totally up to you. You have so much choice here. It doesn't have to be anything dramatic or intense. Just enough to where when you flex the toes back toward the face, you can begin to feel some sensation in the backs of the legs. Continue to lengthen through all 4 sides of the torso, the front, the back, and both sides. Then bring the hands in front of you and start to walk them forward, but keep that length in the spine. So we're really hinging from the hips rather than rounding forward in the spine in order to get further with the hands. So this might be another place where you recognize my tendency is to move my body to max capacity. My tendency is to try to do more and more and more. Can you give yourself permission to let this be a space where you do just a little? Just a little and no more, and have that be enough. Feel the way that the breath moves a little differently. Now that you have lowered the chest forward slightly, now that you have hinged forward from the hips, now that the legs are apart, there is so much that is different in this shape than your seat. How does that change the breath? You might choose to walk the hands over toward the right, maybe framing that right leg with one hand on each side. Or you might choose to plant the right hand, press down into the floor to dial the heart open toward the left, and reach the left arm up toward the sky. How does the breath change here? On your next exhale, whenever it comes, slowly guide the left hand down to the inside of the right leg. Walk the hands now back through center and over to the left. Again, this is all if you choose. If you are still in that meditative seat or folding forward to the center, stay wherever you are. This is your practice. And there is so much freedom in feeling as though you could choose anything at any time, any moment. To move with grace, to move with freedom. If you choose, left hand can ground down. Firmly press into that left hand against the ground to open the heart slowly toward the right. Maybe lifting the right arm. If you are taking this shape with the right arm lifted and you did the same on the other side, do you notice any difference in the breath? Just from side to side, same shape, but different expression. Do you notice any difference in the way the breath comes in, where the breath expands the body or how it moves? Even the sound or the temperature of the breath. And if not, that's okay. Sometimes the feelings, the sensations, and what you recognize is very subtle. Use the slow, controlled exhale to lower the right hand down to the inside of the left leg. Walk the hands back through center, then back toward the hips. Slowly bend into both knees. Place the soles of the feet together and guide the knees wide. It's okay if there's a little popping in the hips. But I mentioned that choice before, and this is another place where you get to choose. You could decide the distance between heels and pelvis here. The closer the heels are to the pelvis, the deeper the bend in the knees, the more open you are asking the hips to be. If you slide the heels forward, and bring more space between heels and pelvis. Then the knees come into more of an open diamond shape. That might feel better for the structure of your body. Wherever you are, lift tall through the spine and breathe. Where do you notice the mind wandering as soon as you give yourself quiet? Does the mind get pulled to planning? Does the mind get pulled to tomorrow or yesterday? Does the mind get pulled to your emotions? Or are you able to enjoy and savor nothing more than the present moment here? Still with a lifted spine, inhale deeply. Exhale and twist the upper body toward the right bent knee. Hands can come to the top of that right thigh, or maybe the right hand wraps all the way around to rest behind the base of the spine on the ground. The depth of the twist is totally up to you. The placement of the gaze is also your choice. You could decide to gaze over the back shoulder, over the front shoulder, or somewhere in between. Use this time to explore what makes my body feel good and how can I make my body even more comfortable. Continue to breathe, even if it feels a little different or awkward to breathe while the belly is twisted. When your next inhale comes, use it to guide yourself slowly back through center, unwinding with care. And then as you exhale, twist the upper body toward the left bent knee, resting the hands on top of that thigh, or maybe using the left hand to support yourself almost like a second spine behind you. There's no rule that says you have to stretch the same way on both sides. So if you're looking for a deeper or more shallow twist than you took before, please know that you have the power to make that choice. If you bring yourself into something that just feels too deep, too uncomfortable, recognize that you have brought yourself past a point that feels right. Honor that intelligent edge of your body. Wait for a space, wait for a shape where your body gives an overwhelming yes to being there. Yes to enjoying this twist, or maybe yes to untwisting, folding forward, or finding a different shape altogether. Just remember that there is no rush. There is no hurry. You can leave that behavior behind. That mindset that there is not enough time, that thinking can dissolve here. Time is your friend here, and you have all of it that you need. One more deep inhale. Exhale to unwind with care. Close the knees very slowly, like two halves of a book. Stretch the legs long in front of you. Point and flex the feet a few times. Circle through the ankles in one direction and then the other. Draw the shoulder blades together as you keep the spine tall. Enjoy this shape, just resting the hands on the thighs, or maybe resting them out onto the ground. You could even tent up on the fingertips, cupping the palms up, straightening the wrists. Perhaps you put a name to the feeling that you feel here. When you sit up tall, when the legs are long and you feel completely supported beneath them by the ground, when the arms are long and straight or the hands are resting on the thighs, how do you feel? And what is it like to put a name to this feeling? Sometimes I find that by naming how I feel during my practice, it becomes easier for me to connect or to redirect. If I'm feeling spacious, then I know I can continue to adjust my body to find more of that spaciousness. If I'm feeling vulnerable or exposed, I know that I can redirect. I know that I can change shape in order to dampen that feeling a little bit if it's too much. Or if I'm just feeling joyful and blissful in a shape, then naming that can help me connect even more deeply and just be grateful, savoring that feeling. And if there's no name, no word, no description at all, that's okay too. It's just one way to connect in your practice. Slowly soften this stretch, letting the arms hang heavy, letting the legs sort of disengage. No more activity there. Maybe the spine slumps a little bit, just starting to feel heavy. Is there now a contrast between what you feel here and what you felt a few breaths ago? As you feel ready to begin transitioning to the restorative portion of class, I'll invite you to come off of your blanket if you've used it as seat support. Open this blanket to a rectangle shape and roll the long edge toward the other long edge. Now, the tighter you choose to roll it, the more firm, the thicker the roll will be. We will be coming down onto this roll as some upper spine support, sort of combating and contrasting the slumping forward that we tend to do throughout the day. So the thicker, the tighter you choose to roll the blanket, the more sensitive that sensation might be. So I encourage you at first to roll it only 1 or 2 times, just to ensure that you are comfortable when you lay down. And you'll bring it toward the head of your mat. Now, the alignment we're looking for when we come down is to feel the upper spine resting over this ridge, over this roll that we've created. And the shoulders, neck, and head are up above the roll on flat ground, on the thinly folded blanket or on your mat. So this roll is only coming to the upper spine. So when it's time to lie down, find a seat facing away from that blanket. Bring the hands behind you and slowly begin to shift back. Once you've found the upper spine on top of the blanket, you can shift yourself a little bit as long as the knees are bent. You can press into the feet and shift the hips forward and back. Anything that would help you adjust where you are in space, where you are on your mat. And then when you find a space that feels therapeutically uncomfortable, you'll reach the arms out wide. So we want to be sure that this roll of the blanket is not so high that the shoulders cannot reach the ground. Backs of the shoulders, back of the head should be able to rest very easily on the mat. Please take your time to come into this shape safely and comfortably. One of the most important things to remember about our restorative practice is that it is a chance to begin again and again and again. If you come into a shape and think, well, eventually I'll feel comfortable, it's not worth moving anymore, give yourself a chance to readjust. Choose to move as many times in and out of the shape as you need until you really do feel truly comfortable. I know that for me, I'm in need of maybe one more roll in my blanket, or a half of a roll, just something a little bit thicker. That would make me feel more supported. But in your body, what would more support look like? Sometimes what needs to move are your surroundings. So if you have a plant or another little object in the way that's keeping you from opening the arms out wide, adjust your space, adjust your environment to meet your needs. We know that our restorative practice is one of beginning again, adjusting as many times as we need to, and realizing that the more we adjust, the more time we use to get comfortable, that is not time wasted. We are using the time to discover what does feel good so that the next time we practice, maybe it will be a little bit easier to find that bliss again. Once you find a position of the upper spine that feels supportive, widen the feet out as wide as the mat. Keep the knees bent and allow the knees to rest in toward one another. And if feet to the outer edges of the mat feels like too much for the lower back, you could heel toe them in a little bit closer to each other. But allowing the knees to collapse in toward one another should offer the spine, the hips, a chance to just release instead of holding on tight to keep you comfortable. Because this restorative practice relies on support and props, we know that we don't have to find that support only in ourselves. We can feel held instead of holding our body. It is a practice of surrendering again and again, knowing that we do not have to hold control here. Drop a line of inquiry here. How does this rest change my breath? Stay curious about how the breath changes and moves. Even if it's difficult to connect to at first, just continue to invite that awareness in. And if it takes the whole class or many classes to begin noticing it, there is no competition, there is no race. Just continue to stay curious. You might find that when you were upright and seated, the breath was shallow or stiff, even stuck. And now, in this shape of rest, the breath is more smooth and free. What kind of story is the breath telling you here? Without analyzing it, without judging it, just notice and listen. Soften the skin of the face. Relax the root of the tongue and bring the tip of the tongue away from the roof of the mouth. Bring more space between both rows of teeth. And let the shoulders come down away from the ears. Soften the space behind the eyes. Without changing the distance. Just notice the space between each finger. Take the next 5 breaths with full awareness of the upper spine, particularly the space, the skin, the bones, the muscles that are making contact with the rolled blanket. As you rest here for a few more moments, remember that invitation to begin again. Perhaps 5 breaths ago, you softened the shoulders and now they've crept up by the ears again. Perhaps 5 breaths ago, you softened the face and now you notice the brow is furrowed or the jaw is clenched. Use this as a time to begin again, to adjust and readjust until you can find a sense of heaviness, a sense of calm. Just as you are the expert of your own body, you are the expert of your own practice. So let you yourself be your first teacher. Just drop another line of inquiry here. How might my body like to rest in Shavasana? If I take extended time to relax, extended time to rest in quiet, what would be the most comfortable position for me? Perhaps it's staying right here. Perhaps it's returning to a meditative seat or coming to a traditional corpse pose. Maybe it's legs up the wall, which will be my suggested shape for this evening. But again, just because I am only demoing legs of the wall, know that that does not mean it has to be the shape you take. If you are transitioning, use the next breath or two to roll gently to your side. To use the hands against the ground to press yourself up. To move the blanket to the outer edge of your mat or perpendicular to the wall. Shift your body to sit to the side of the wall with your hip facing the baseboard. And again, if you're not practicing near a wall but would still like this gentle inversion, you can use any vertical surface, your bed, a chair. Once you find yourself seated with one hip toward the baseboard, walk the hands away from the wall toward your blanket. Come down to rest on your side. Adjust the space between the bum and the baseboard if you'd like to be closer or farther away. And then from your side, roll onto your back, shifting the legs up the wall. Begin again, as many times as you need. Maybe choosing to roll back to your side, to bring yourself closer or farther away from the wall. Give yourself whatever support you need behind the head, or even out to the sides if you'd like to rest the hands on something soft. If you'd like to use this time to connect a little more deeply to your body, to your spirit, or even just to the healing Reiki energy being sent through time and space to you, I'll suggest to rest your hands on your belly. The thumbs, the index fingers will rest on the base of the ribs. The other three fingers will rest on the supple skin of the belly. Aligning the hands in this way might allow you to connect to that subtle balance of energy that is always inside of you. You can feel the bones, the rigidity behind the thumbs and index fingers, the softness, the rise and fall of the breath beneath the other three fingers. You can feel the support of the wall, the support of the ground, the support of the blanket, and the support of the breath. Everything within and around you completely supported so that you may sink into deep, deep calm, sweet relaxation, and easeful bliss. Feel the weight of the hands on the belly or against the ground. Feel the temperature of the palms and bring awareness to the mind. Notice if the mind has wandered elsewhere. And if it has, what is your first reaction to noticing that change? Sometimes the voice of our inner critic can be so loud, but we know that we can come back to this practice again and again and again to turn down the volume of thought, to turn down the volume of criticism or judgment, and simply surrender to the practice of being. Take in the deepest breath of the day as you reach the arms slowly overhead. Gently begin to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Bob the knees a few times. And then bend them slowly, guiding the heels down the wall. Relax the shoulders as you walk the feet over to the right side, allowing your body to rest in a side lying shape. Notice again any sense of urgency or rush that may be flooding or controlling the thoughts. We're not trying to change the frequency of these thoughts, but just notice how often they happen. When the time is right for you, press the hands slowly into the ground and return the body to a comfortable, upright seat. Again, let the shoulders be low, the spine tall yet relaxed. Bring the hands together in front of the heart, honoring this practice and this chance to begin again and again and again. To come back to ourselves, to draw back the mind as many times as it takes. Because we know that this bliss, this rest is worth it all. It is worth the initial discomfort. It is worth the initial fear of silence. We are worth this rest. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me Thank you for choosing to spend this time to slow down and simply be. Namaste.